The U.S. State Department announced last night that it will hold a series of meetings on February 6th with representatives from the joint coalition that's been fighting ISIS since 2014. That's an important meeting because the U.S. is withdrawing from Syria, and there's also pressure on the U.S. in Iraq, so they need to try to figure out what these 74 other countries are going to continue to do in terms of the war on ISIS. Now, at the same time, in the Euphrates Valley, the U.S. Defense Department says that ISIS has been defeated or lost 99.5% of its land, and that it will soon have lost 100%. So that creates a situation in which the war appears to be primarily over. We also know many of the last foreign jihadists have fled that pocket next to Baghouz, next to Hajin. So we know that there's also pressure on many European countries. These are countries that are members of the coalition to take back these ISIS fighters. And a report yesterday in French media indicated that 130 French foreign fighters will be repatriated to France. Although the foreign minister in France was a little bit more cagey about saying whether or not that number was accurate. All he said was that any who came back would indeed be judged and likely be incarcerated. As we weigh those facts, it's also important to note that the Syrian Democratic Forces political wing leader Ilham Ahmed is in Washington, gave a speech yesterday at the Middle East Institute, answered many questions about the SDF's political viewpoints and its stance on the Syrian regime, Turkey, Afrin, other things. And what she said was basically that the regime and the SDF are not yet on the same page. That Turkey is threatening the SDF. That they want to see Turkish forces leave Afrin, obviously, and other parts of Syria. That they don't think this Adana agreement, in which Turkey would have a right to enter Syria to fight the PKK, is a good model. And that they don't accept that Peshmerga forces, or those connected to the National Council or other groups that are connected more to the KDP and the KRG, would be permitted to operate in eastern Syria. So they don't seem to be able to answer some of the questions about their future, exactly what they want. It's still a little bit hazy. Someone at the meeting asked them if anything less than autonomy would actually be a defeat for them, and they were not able to fully articulate that. Although what's clear is that after so many years, the SDF has finally decided to go to Washington in a big way. But you'd think that they would have put political capital into that years ago. And instead, they, I think, have left themselves sort of outside the circle. I mean, for instance, they're not going to be at that early February meeting. Now, that also comes in the backdrop of other interesting developments. The Israeli-Iranian tensions have increased since the January 20th airstrikes. There's also Turkey's support for Venezuela amid the crisis there, where the U.S. has supported the opposition. And Russia, of course, still trying to host Iran and Turkey to play an important role in the Astana and Geneva processes. Russia is sort of trying to play the role of the power broker. So those are the developments in the region this week and today. And it shows that it's very much up in the air what will come next. The U.S. State Department announced